On this week's show, the Georgia Southern basketball team trying for one of the top 4 spots in the Sun Belt standings, and the Eagle baseball team wins 4 of 5 over the past few days. We'll have highlights and analysis as we welcome you inside the Eagles' nest. And welcome inside the Eagles' Nest. I'm your host, Josh Aubrey, being joined by Mike Anthony, the sports editor and Georgia Southern beat writer for the Statesboro Herald. And Mike, we've got the sports overlapping right now. The baseball team look like they've kind of got into a groove right now, won 4 of the last 5, and then the basketball team playing really well. We're hoping to close out the season strong, 10-8 on the season. The women's basketball not so good. They are not going to be going to New Orleans. They're not going to the Sun Belt tournament. But let's begin with the guys' basketball team. And right now, they go 10-8 in the league. Could go as high as 3rd possibly, maybe drop as low as 5th, maybe 6th. But things are looking good if they can get a split especially. They've got a couple of tough teams. Monroe, maybe one of the hottest teams in the league, and then Lafayette going back-to-back. Monroe on Thursday and Lafayette Saturday. Your thoughts on Georgia Southern? It seemed like a while since they played because they played this past week and have had a few days off.
Well, it's still a lot of balls in the air as far as where everybody's going to land in the bracket for the conference tournament, but the important thing, Georgia Southern is definitely in. The next most important thing, any coach will tell you they want to be peaking at the right time. That seems to be exactly what Georgia Southern's doing. 10-8 now in conference after a 1-3 start. That seems like forever ago. All season long, they would get within a game or two of that 500 record overall. Wouldn't quite be able to climb that mountain. Now they're finally there too. So the Eagles playing winning basketball. They're a red-hot shooting team. They're that proverbial team that no one wants to run across in the tournament. Very few teams have really found things going easy with Georgia Southern this year. Little Rock swept them, of course, but everybody else has kind of tasted the fury of a hot shooting Georgia Southern team. When they get hot, they can shoot you right out of the gym. A couple of days off here, hopefully some rested legs. That's what you need going into tournament play, where they might have to win 3-4 days in a row to get that conference championship advance to the tournament like they want to. But first things first, a trip out to Louisiana. Both of those teams have been up at the top of the rankings all year in the Sun Belt. The Eagles a chance to maybe do some damage, especially against Lafayette, maybe leapfrog them and get themselves a little bit better seed.
Well, let's shift gears and move outside to the baseball diamond, where Georgia Southern started off a little bit rocky, with a 1-4 start against Tech and Georgia, but then really bounced back nicely. Lost 1 game in a 4-game series against Radford, a pretty good team that came in, and then called to Charleston. We know their pedigree, usually one of the toughest teams in this area, and beat them in a midweek game this week as well.
Well, the weather's starting to warm up a little bit, and slowly so are the bats for Georgia Southern. The offense, an issue last year. It came in spurts, but it also came with a lot of strikeouts. We saw more of the same up in Athens, a couple of games where the Eagles struck out more than 10 times as a team just in one game. The 16-inning game against Tech, the Eagles had almost as many strikeouts as there were innings played, but they're finally starting to bring it around. Some better approaches at the plate. People are getting the bunts down. They're hitting behind the runner. They're putting the ball in play with runners in scoring position. And on a team that only has 1 or 2 legitimate home run threats, gap power threats, those are the things that you have to do. And luckily for the Eagles, the other half of that equation on the mound, that's really coming through. The pitching so far, we thought it was going to be good. I think it's been even better than advertised, especially with 3 or 4 freshmen jumping right in and pitching like seasoned veterans.
All right, well, Georgia Southern with 4 games against Radford. We have highlights of a couple of those, and we'll also head out for highlights from Georgia Southern and the College of Charleston. Let's see how things went. Georgia Southern hosting Radford in the first of a 4-game series Friday night. The visitors start the scoring. Zach York, the single to center. Colby Higgerston scores, and it's 1-0 Highlanders. The Eagles quickly erase the lead, though. Bases loaded. Will Hudgens gets hit by the pitch, and that forces in the run, and it's 1-1. Next up, Logan Baldwin, the batter, and he will single the opposite way. Jordan Wren scores. Ryan Cleveland will slide in safe as well, and it's 3-1 Eagles. That would be about as much run support as Evan Challenger would need. He'd go a strong 7 innings, allowing only 4 hits, 2 earned runs while striking out 9. Eagles win game 1 6-3. The two teams split on Saturday, GSU losing 2-1, winning 3-2. Then to Sunday we go. Georgia Southern looking for their 3rd win of the year. Things start off nicely. Ryan Cleveland, the infield hit. Runners on the corners, and Jordan Wren comes through with the single into right. And it's 1-0 Eagles. Next up, Logan Baldwin doing his job. The fly ball deep enough to bring home Cleveland, and the Eagles take a 2-0 lead. GSU playing good defensively as well. Check out the hustle play by 3rd baseman Kent Rollins at the fence. The Eagles not hitting the ball too much in the first 3 games, but coming through with 9 hits on Sunday. Eric Furfree, the single. Then it's Cal Baker driving this one down the line and left. It gets all the way to the corner. Furphy scores. Baker slides into 3rd with the triple. 3-0 GSU. Still more. CJ Ballard singles to left. Baker scores, and it's 4-0 Georgia Southern. On the mound, freshman Brian Eichhorn from Richmond Hill looking sharp. 6 innings, 1 run, 4 strikeouts. He'd get plenty of run support. CJ Brazel, the double to left. Later, showing his base running skills, he takes off for 3rd on the steal. The ball gets away. He comes all the way home to make it 5-0. In the 7th with the score 6-2. Kent Rollins singles into left. Ryan Cleveland scores to make it 7-2. Cleveland later in the 8th inning will rip this one off first, and 2 more runs come home as the Eagles take 3 of 4 against the Highlanders, winning 10-2. Georgia Southern hosting the College of Charleston, their old Southern Conference foes at JI. The Eagles looking for their 3rd straight win. The Cougars grab the quick lead though. Bradley Jones with the solo shot to make it 1-0, but the Eagles get out of the inning without any further damage. Landon Hughes gets the inning-ending strikeout. In the bottom half, the Eagles come right back. 2 on for Will Hudgens. He strokes a single to center. In come both runners, and Georgia Southern would take a 2-1 lead. Later that inning, Eagles make it 3-1 as former Effingham Rebel Cal Baker with the RBI single to left. It's 4-1 Eagles in the 2nd, and the scoreboard is changing once again. Runner on for Ryan Cleveland, and this one up and away. The 2-run shot to center makes it 6-1 Georgia Southern. Eagles picking up another in the 4th. Runner on for Jordan Wren. The base knock up the middle plates the 7th run of the game at 7-1. The Cougars try and make it close, but Ryan Frederick with the strikeout, and the Eagles win 10-6. Final segment.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, 3, 2, 1. And next up for Georgia Southern, a 3-game series at home against Memphis. Yeah, Memphis comes in at 4-2 on the season. There's a single game on Friday at 7, Saturday at 7, and then they wrap things up with the game Sunday at 1. As for the Georgia Southern softball team, congrats to them. Off to an 8-7 start on the year. Mike, before we go, we'd be remiss if not to mention that the Sun Belt has decided that in 2017 there are going to be only 10 teams, and we don't have to worry about the 2 longest trips of the season in New Mexico and Idaho, and we'll have the Chanticleers coming in from coastal Carolina. Still no talk of a championship game, and I think the problem, it seems like, with that is they're kind of afraid they were to play a championship and one team's undefeated, maybe they don't get as good a bowl game as they would if they were undefeated.
Well, the biggest thing is it's going to come down to money, like everything does. That was the biggest reason that New Mexico State and Idaho were in the Sun Belt to begin with. Before the conference championship game deregulation, you needed to have at least 12 teams to have that championship game that the Sun Belt wanted. They got a couple extra schools to build towards that 12. Now that that's not an issue anymore, they're feeling free to probably make things a little easier travel-wise budget-wise on other schools not having to go out to Idaho or New Mexico State anymore. Coastal Carolina, hopefully they can come in and make the same sort of transition that Georgia Southern, Appalachian State have. I do think there will be a conference championship game, if not in 2017, probably 2018. And you mentioned it, it could end up being a tough luck situation, a good team, possibly an undefeated team losing one more game, but it's also a primetime audience, almost like a second bowl game or a fifth or sixth bowl game at this rate for the Sun Belt. It's got some big audiences. It's got some big sponsorships. You've got to weigh that. I think the Sun Belt is ready to put its bets on at least one or two teams having that sort of season where they could possibly be ranked, maybe have that one championship game on a Friday, Saturday night in front of a big TV audience to get them over the hump, get the Sun Belt a little bit more respect.
I don't think it's coming, but we shall see. It's two different opinions. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that they're going to be more content to try, roll the dice, and hope that a team is undefeated and is able to go to a bigger bowl and make a bigger money. I don't know that a Sun Belt championship game brings the same luster of an SEC championship game or a Big Ten or someone like that. So we shall see. Still wait to hear on that. Well, for now, that'll wrap things up. For Mike Anthony, I'm Josh Aubrey. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again next week.